I will call the meeting to order and open the meeting with our land acknowledgement. On May 25th, we acknowledge that the sacred land in which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and has rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I only got a couple of remarks this morning. Just want to express some gratitude to our police service for all the activities through Police Week last week, from the barbecue with the Special Olympians on Monday to coffee with a cop at Starbucks on Wednesday to I think the barbecue for many of your partners on Friday. And with great outreach, great to share your your wisdom, your experiences, and your spirit with the community. And I know every event was very well attended and very well received. So thank you very much for your efforts, and I guess a big example of what community policing really is. For any additions to the agenda?
If I can just add to your remarks, Chair,
Sure.
and thank you very much for that. It was an excellent police week, and we were happy to meet with a lot of different people in the community, and as you said, share some experiences, but also answer questions and just be there. I just wanted to mention as well that because we do have our Special Olympics torch run activities coming up in early June as well. So we have our toll that we do every year on Friday, June the 2nd, that we'll be running for the voluntary toll for Special Olympics. We'll have some of our Special Olympics athletes alongside us as well on that day. We'll have our torch run on the 3rd of June, leaving Settlers Ridge Mall at about 9:30 in the morning on Saturday, the 3rd of June. And we also have our Special Olympics golf tournament that the Kinsmen host with our association on June the 14th at the Smith Falls Golf and Country Club. So certainly, and I think there's still room for teams to sign up for that day, and that's always a great day as well. And just the only other thing that I had as well was just a mention to Staff Sergeant Blanchard, who's coming up to his last day on the 31st of May. He's using up some of his time off that he still had banked this week, but he'll be back in the office for a couple of days to say his farewells, and so we wish him the best in the next chapter. That's all I have. Thank you very much, Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other additions to the agenda? Seeing none.
Sorry about that. Just one modification, just to 9B on grants. It says grant and MCERT. I just also want to just touch with the victim support grant as well.
Okay. So noted. Thank you. Okay, ask for declaration of interest. Seeing none, we will move in camera. Smith Falls Police Services Board move in camera to discuss items pertaining to intimate financial or personal matters or matters related may be disclosed of such a nature having regard to the circumstances that the desirability of avoiding their disclosure in the interest of any person affected or in the public interest outweighs the desirability of adhering to the principle that proceedings will be open to the public in accordance with Section 35(4)(b) of the Police Services Act. Ask for a motion to move in camera, please. Chris Babcock, seconded by Jen. All in favor? That's Carrie. We'll move in camera.
And we're back up.
Okay, thank you. Just as a rising report from in-camera sessions, we discussed identifiable individuals, human resources and staffing, approved in-camera minutes, and an investigation update on a legal matter. So moving on in our agenda, we have no correspondence. I'll ask for approval of minutes for the April 25th meeting. Moved by Rob, seconded by Chris Babcock. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Some business arising from the previous meeting. Chief, next generation 911 update, please.
So just on that, we did actually receive the transfer payment from the provincial government for the $560,000 for our next generation 911. I am still working Owen Sound, obviously Owen Sound, and they're doing an agreement up because and the agreement is going to be somewhat of a boilerplate agreement for a number of other services that will be receiving the next generation downloads from Owen Sound. So we're just working with them to get that final agreement signed so that we will pay them for the 5-year service agreement out of that 560,000. Along with that, Owen Sound has provided us, as they have some buying power, if you will, with hardware and items that we require here on site that they're working with, so that other services can access some better pricing as well through some bulk buying. So we've been working with their IT and our IT to finalize that list and to get the items that we need purchased and in place before we move into the NG 911. It all, as you're aware, it was kind of a different sort of grant process than we're used to, in that there wasn't a lot put into getting the funding. There was an application and what was called a readiness survey to sort of show where we were at with our NG 911. And then the money has to be, it's basically 23 fiscal year money that is supposed to be spent by March 31st, which they've have it as July 31st with our final report on our spending, where the money has to be sort of out of or off the books, if you will. So that's that will get done prior to July 31st. We'll have the agreement in place by then. We'll have our hardware that we need. And there's also a portion of that grant that goes towards some upgrades that we did with the cooling system in our server room, as well as some of our IT staffing costs as well, that's covered for the staffing hours that we spend on the NG 911 project. So that'll all get covered in under the 560,000. We're expecting then that there'll be the second round. There's supposed to be a second round and a third round of NG 911 funding. And there'll be some other things, obviously some continued IT support that we will apply for in that next round, as well as there's some areas of our CAD, which is our computer automated dispatch system, that will require some upgrade for NG 911. It's a mandatory upgrade that's going to be coming in the fall, but because it does have to do with NG 911, we'll be able to submit that under the grant as well. So hopefully so if that goes well, that will reduce actually some costs that we were looking at, that would have come out of our operating budget that may get covered then under the grant. So that's good news. In the next round, we'll know a little bit more about that. And that was probably in and around the $25,000 or $30,000 for that upgrade. So that's good if we can get all of that covered under the grant. And that's subject to questions. That's what I have on the NG 911 grant update.
Great news. Thank you. Any questions? No, you covered it all. Thanks, Chief.
Perfect.
2022 budget update.
I don't have a lot of update. We keep it on as our business arising, waiting for our final audited budget, and I have not heard any further. And I'm not sure, and perhaps Chair Pankow or Chris McGuire. I know Council. I think there might have been a report that I didn't see, or that might have given an update on the final budget for the town. Was it not? Perhaps not. I thought
no,
there was an update as to where we were at. Okay.
Yeah, the audit has not been completed yet. So,
okay.
I guess we move ahead to 23 budget update.
23 budget. Also, we haven't started getting any budget monitors. I know our finance department is sort of looking at a little bit of a different system than we had before, as far as how we'll get monthly monitoring, but we're working with that. And so we haven't got any monitors, but I do use the software assist program to go in and review a lot of our operating lines, and I've done that over the last. I do it regular, but over the last week or so, went into a number of the lines, our overtime lines and salaries lines, some of our other operating cost lines, to make sure that everything is where it should be, getting close to. We're at the end of 5 months into the year, and I'm happy to say that everything is tracking well. Some overtime obviously is running a little bit higher, but with the investigation at Old Mill Road, but some of that will be recovered through insurance as well. So I'm very content where things are at with the budget at this point in time.
Super. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, moving on to new business, our 2024-2026 business plan.
So I added this on. Obviously in the early stages. It's we've got some months ahead to work on it. As the board knows, we under the Act we have a business plan, and I should correct that. I think it would be 24 to 27. We're now under the Act allowed to go with a 4-year plan and not just a 3-year plan. So and I think the last one we may have done that. But subject other than that, I put it on there because the last plan that we did was sort of right in the start of COVID. So we did, it was a little bit more difficult, although we did reach out to a lot of our stakeholders through social media and through letters that we sent to different business partners and stakeholders to get feedback for the business plan. We did have a virtual live meeting as well, a public meeting. So I know in past we've done public surveys. I think we'd certainly be looking to reach out by way of letter and contacting a lot of our stakeholders and partners to invite them to meet and provide any feedback that they have on policing, good or bad, or what they'd like to see different or more of or less of, and probably look at doing something similar in a public forum as well, where we would have the public that would be invited to participate and maybe be able to do that at the arena or something along those lines, that we could have people in and invite them to a meeting. I'd like to see as well. I think perhaps it might be a good idea. I know previous Chair Hallinan was involved with it. I'm wondering if I throw out the idea of perhaps having a couple of board members, and maybe establishing a little bit of a working committee or group with perhaps the deputy. This is a good opportunity for the deputy to get involved in that process as well, and to establish a bit of a working group to set up some of these meetings and look at the current business plan, anything that we think needs to be changed, and where we go from here. So I open that up to the board.
Funny, you're reading my mind. So thank you. Yeah, I would like to be involved in that process, and I agree. It'd be nice to have another member of the board to be involved as well. Do we have any volunteers?
I'd be happy to volunteer. Sorry, I can't put my hand up on the phone, but.
Okay. I see. Chris Babcock, you put your hand up there as well. Do you, I guess, want to have, which one of the Chris's?
I'm fine with Chris McGuire doing it.
Okay, super. Thank you. Okay, so we've got that, and obviously the chief or deputy will follow up and we'll work at that. And I agree. It'd be great to have, I guess, an open house or certainly a good session of public consultation, as well as some online opportunities and surveys, and that can all be considered by this working group. Jen?
I was just going to make a suggestion. Would it be like too much to have 2 members of the board? Not to, not that I don't want both, council members to be there, but it might be nice to have somebody from the public as well. And Chris Babcock volunteering, it might just be nice to have multiple options. That's not too many.
The only thing I wonder is that would constitute a quorum of the board, which would then result in it being essentially a public meeting, I think. And so we have to follow those procedures. So probably 2 would be suitable rather than 3 creating quorum, unfortunately. And Chief, would you agree?
Yeah, you're right. It should be 2, because if you did get 3, it would be quorum. It would have to be in the form of a meeting, and you'd have to follow the structure of a meeting. So, but I certainly, Jen, and perhaps, and maybe that's the idea of we've got both members from council on. I don't know if there's any, if there'd be any advantage to having Chair Panko and perhaps one of the provincial appointees or public appointees, and that's as another option as well. But I leave that open to the board.
Yes, Rob.
How many groups do we look to meet with?
Well, I think if we were as far as some of our stakeholders and partners, we'd probably invite multiple groups at once, as far as when we're talking about things like our school boards, our victim services, interval house, Big Brothers Big Sisters. There's a number of different agencies that we would send out, and they would send representation. And so it could be a case of having a number of them at one meeting. So I don't think it's a case of having to have a meeting with each one. Generally, when we send out correspondence, it provides the option of providing written feedback, and I think the template letter that we've sent out in the past sort of provides a little bit of guidance as to what we're looking for, what we can do more of, less of, that sort of wording. So they're certainly invited to do that, and if they don't feel they're able to attend, now that we're out of COVID, I'd like to hope that maybe a few more of them would come to a meeting, and I think if we set the stage right, we could get a good attendance from our stakeholders and have a fruitful meeting. And then as far as the public consultation, I would suggest 1 meeting for sure, possibly a second if there was a need further down the road to tweak anything or look for any further feedback. We haven't had a lot of turnout at public meetings in the past, but it certainly provides that opportunity and gives people the chance to come out and ask questions as well. Maybe sometimes it's a case of not necessarily being aware of everything that we do. So
the reason for the question was I was trying to remember in the past past, did we ever meet with any of the groups individually? Or did we just have it as a public sort of?
I think we did do some individual meetings at
That
one.
might be a case if we did have those, that Chris and or Sean could go with, you know, one step back and others step in if we met with them individually as opposed to en masse as a group. Just
Yes.
a suggestion to sort of get.
Yeah, and there was some, I mean, depending on like the school boards, for instance, there's obviously the multiple school boards and whatnot, and you might run into scheduling problems where, you know what, I think we would be open to more than one meeting if you know, obviously it's important to get that feedback, and so it might be a case of having 2 or 3 meetings to get the maximum of that we can from our stakeholders. So
Utilize everybody at that point if need be.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you. MCERT grant. That's good news.
Yeah, we've got great news on 2 fronts there. One is our mobile crisis response team grant. They've provided, the applications have come out to apply for further funding. It's if you recall, last year we were successful, and I think it was a little just around or just over $100,000, and they called it the Mobile Crisis Response Enhancement Grant, and that's what they're calling it again now. So I don't know if it's going to be the trend from the government that's going to be sort of an annual thing. The unfortunate part with that is it makes it difficult, and I know I was speaking to one of the directors at our Police Week barbecue and from mental health, and the difficulties and challenges in maintaining the good resources that we have. And I say that with some of the workers, the crisis workers that we have on our team, when when the funding runs out, and some of these people then are looking for other places that they can fit into to maintain their contracts. And so it's but happy to say that we've got that grant application, and we certainly will be working with our Lanark County mental health partners to make sure we take full advantage of it. Lanark County OPP have the same grant application as well, as they're part of our team, so we get to sort of double up on that, and so that's good news, and I'm pretty confident that that we'll be successful in that grant process, and we'll be able to enhance as the grant is forward, and maintain our crisis response team.
Thank you. So is the application going in for the amount to maintain the same staffing level that's in place right now?
There'll be some, because there's some staffing where obviously there's been funding that's been found that we haven't had to reduce the staffing. So I mean, I don't have the full picture from Lanark County Mental Health as far as what funding that we need really to keep things together, at least at the levels that we're at, and also certainly the potential of being able to add more to the team, and that can also be in the way of training and resourcing and staffing that might be able to expand the hours of work of our mobile crisis response team. Some of the there's a component of it that sort of resides at the hospitals, if you will, as well. So we'll be working with our partners there to make sure that we get the best bang for the buck, if you will.
And if you had your way, would you like more hours? Are we meeting the needs, or is it better? Would 24/7 365 coverage be ideal?
I guess in a perfect world, more hours is nice. It certainly works very well when we have crisis workers on duty when those calls come in. Otherwise, it does revert back to police responding to those calls. Obviously making referrals, follow-ups that are done by our mobile crisis team. So yeah, ideally it's nice. The calls, obviously we're not getting great volumes of calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. So there's not, not an advance, so it's great to say, sure, it'd be nice to have 24/7 coverage, but that money might be better spent on having more staffing on in the evenings or during the daytime, or so we work with where the call volume is, and if we're able to provide more staffing throughout the county on the whole during the busier times, that would be ideal.
Thank you. Any further questions from members of the board? Seeing none.
And then just so this, along with that, the victim support grant is as well. It's another one that we've taken advantage of. The deputy's going to be working on that with some of our victim support groups and different stakeholders, and we'll make sure that we include a number of our stakeholders in this to make sure that we've done a lot of training of staff and public awareness and things with such as human trafficking and domestic violence and intimate partner violence, and so this grant has a little bit of an expanded criteria with that regard. So we're going to try and make the best of that with more of our victim support partners as well. So that'll be coming out. I don't have all the details on it, but the applications have come out, and so that's another good one to maintain.
Super. Thank you. Any questions? No, we're moving along well here. Okay, manager's report. Deputy Chief.
Good morning. Just gonna share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
I'll just double check with our provider to make sure that
Okay,
that might be a case at his end.
pretty sure.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
You've got your home screen up there right now.
Okay,
Nice picture.
there we go.
There,
How's that?
perfect.
Okay, so it was communicators month, as we know, in April, and we wouldn't be able to do it without our dispatchers. During the month of April, police responded to 668 calls for service. Our uniform patrol traffic enforcement, we had 20 reported collisions, 36 traffic complaints, 64 vehicles stopped, and 30 charges related to those stops. There was a total of 51 charges that were laid under the Highway Traffic Act and 4 charges laid under the Compulsory Automobile Insurance Act. For alcohol, drug, and our criminal-related traffic and step targets, we had 1 possession of Schedule 1 substance, being cocaine, a charge laid for failed to comply with undertaking. The step target for the month of April was seatbelt child restraints. We had officers conducting stationary checkpoints in various areas in town to ensure drivers were wearing their seatbelts. Overall, they found that there was a large percentage of drivers that were in compliance, which is good to see. 4 charges were laid relating to our seatbelt offenses. May is our aggressive driving campaign in conjunction with our Road Safety Week. There's Officer LeMay with the Easter Bunny. We did 30 hours of foot patrol, 9 hours in the community with community service. I know that they did some visits to the Bears game, and we were disappointed that they didn't make it to Windsor, but it was a very exciting game. I went to see it off duty, of course, and it was a great game to watch. 11 hours in the schools. We had 7 assaults, 1 break and enter, 8 bail violations, 13 intimate partner violence calls. We had 28 mental health calls with a 0% apprehension rate, with 19 minutes of an average wait time. Our criminal investigation branch and our CISO are continuing to work full-time on Bertram missing persons file in conjunction with the OPP. Executed 6 arrest warrants, continued with our IPV related homicide which is before the court still. Sexual assault investigation is ongoing. We had a large fraud investigated that is complete, and the warrant is sought on the suspect. I'm going to provide you with some MCERT stats that we were talking about. MCERT, it was provided to me from the manager of Lanark County Mental Health. He works obviously with us on the program, and I found the stats very interesting to briefly show you the benefit of the program working with the police. This also includes Lanark County OPP. So if you look at here, voluntary apprehension, and it's from 2016 all the way to current. So voluntary means the person, we deal with that person with MCERT, they decide that they are willing to go to the hospital. Involuntary apprehensions are persons in crisis that aren't as willing to go to the hospital, but need to go for their safety or the safety of others. So they go with police and MCERT. And then no attendance stats are that MCERT and police have spoken to this person in crisis, and MCERT has been able to avoid the person going to the hospital by setting them up with counseling and getting that that connection early, so they've come down from their crisis and there's no need to attend the hospital. So what we were very impressed with, obviously, if you look at our stats from 2016 to 2023, we're up to 75% of people not having to go to the hospital for mental health assistance. And that MCERT program is working with, as you can see, stat purposes, because it's jumped significantly from back in 2016 when it was only 28%. Now we have 75% of people avoiding going into the hospital, which is what we have been trying to avoid. And so the MCERT team is working.
Deputy Chief, sorry, just before you move on there, the previous slide, when did the MCERT program start in Smith Falls? And was it in 2016? And we're partway through the year, I'm wondering. And also, I know it started in a smaller role, I guess, than what it is now, with fewer hours available, right? And did that correlate that?
It has helped significantly having more staff on. We share the staffing with the OPP. So if, say, the person, whether it's a social worker or nurse, is with OPP, if we have a crisis call, they will come to us and vice versa. So we've had coverage pretty well 7 days a week. And as the chief mentioned, the primarily calls that we get are in the mornings, late mornings or into the evening hours. So that's when we have the stronger coverage. And so that's why you're seeing the statistics. So if we lose that staffing, we're going to drop, obviously, because like as the chief mentioned, it would just be the officers attending, and we don't have the expertise, so they would be going to the hospital.
And you're able, maybe not now, but maybe for a future meeting, sort of quantify the number of hours this has helped service our, I guess, reduce number of hours our service is saving by not having to spend that time at the hospital, and just the overall impact of the police service of having this program. Because I think obviously the graph speaks volumes, and not just for the police service, but also for the individual. I guess we're avoiding apprehensions, we're avoiding going to the hospital. It's probably a much better outcome for the individual as well.
Yeah, it can be difficult depending on if the person is in crisis and the staff have to be there for a long period of time, depending on the situation. But certainly I can look at the number of hours, because if we look at percentage, that's less time. And as I just reported this month, we had 0% that we had to stay in the hospital. So it was very short time, less than 15-20 minutes versus 2 hours plus in the last month. So sometimes it depends on the calls, obviously, but we do see a significant difference in having to attend the hospitals and waiting there.
Thank you.
So our community services officer had meetings with Big Brothers, the WAC, Child and Youth Collaboration, Victim Services, Lanark County Mental Health Anti-Hoarding person, with meeting with Rotary Club, participated with Victim Services and the Sexual Assault Domestic Violence Unit on a public presentation regarding human trafficking, hate crime, and intimate partner violence. I attended as well. It wasn't very busy, but at least the people that went were impressed with the presentations. We're going to maybe do a different take on it, but also have a public format as well. He did a fraud presentation at Van Horn Residence, served lunch at Hanley Hall, attended the Legion fashion show fundraiser for the hospital and Duncan J. Schooler, attended for school lockdowns, planning and prep for police week, assisted with frontline patrol, and conducted his annual requalification training. And that's a picture. So all of our officers in April, we conducted our use of force training, which includes our taser training, scenarios, de-escalation tactics, firearms, use of force. We all are involved in that training. And we thank our St. Lawrence College Police Foundation students from Kingston who assisted us with our scenarios. We do our training outside in the Brockville area in collaboration with Brockville and again, Rockaway Police. And it's a really interesting training. We also had our Crown Attorney do a talk as well to officers about testifying court, their notes, and court prep for trials. With COVID, there's been quite a gap in officers having to prepare and testify in court, and courts being open now, they are we're spending more time in courts than we were before. And then I was in Toronto for a labor conference for a couple of days. And that is the end of the report.
Thank you. Any questions for Deputy Chief?
Sorry.
I just see in the chat line that board member Dobson has to leave the meeting. I didn't see that. I see Chris must have dropped off as well.
Okay.
So we do still have, and we're just finishing up anyway.
Okay. Well, thanks to those two for their participation today. And Deputy Chief Anthony, I wanted to thank you also for attending the mosaic unveiling at the town square last week, but also speaking so well with real passion and purpose when it comes to the fight against intimate partner violence and your partnership with Interval House. And I would say it's just very reassuring and comforting to know that you sort of lead the charge on that and are supporting the victims in our community and making sure you and your team do all they can to help those who are subjected to, I say, a very unfortunate abuse and relationships. Okay, anything further by any member or the chief or deputy chief?
Just one thing that actually came up and to my attention, and I just wanted to put the plug in before while we were on the meeting, just with be this Saturday with the assistance of the kinsman, I believe, is a bike rodeo at the Smith Falls Arena for kids. It'll be by the outdoor Sens rink, and that'll be going on Saturday starting at 10 a.m. And it's going on till about 3 p.m. So certainly inviting kids. We'll have our community service there as well, and certainly a good opportunity for kids to come out. There's some prizes, even including a new bike that's up for grabs. So certainly a good event to help kids with bicycle safety and ensuring they have all the proper equipment as well, and to have a little bit of fun on a nice Saturday morning.
Super, thank you.
It's on our and that information is on our Facebook page.
Okay, great. And also, I should take a moment to recognize Honorary Deputy Chief Robbie Hall, who received the Charles Gahuli Award at the town's award ceremony last week. And of course, a big part of his volunteer work is with Special Olympics, and obviously it's a very close connection to and great love and affection for our police service. So great recognition and great gratitude to Robbie Hall.
Was a great tribute for him.
Okay, date and time of next meeting, since we've had a couple of members have to step away. We'll circle back probably in the next week or so to schedule our next meeting. So look for motion for adjournment. I guess we've